What is up, and welcome to the DLF football YouTube channel special series that we're doing, the team previews for the 2021 season and beyond, because we're dynasty football here. So we're interested in these guys for much longer than this 1 year, but a lot of changes made over the offseason. We got a couple of smart football guys to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Lots to talk about, more changes than you might realize happened with this team. And we're going to break it all down for you right after this. So what is up? My name is Calvin and Hobby. I'm excited to have you guys here. This is an afternoon special. Appreciate you taking your time. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests. We've got a couple of just guys that I've loved getting to know here in the industry. To my left here, David. Tell everybody what you're doing. Love what you're doing with Triple Play and all that. But let everybody know where to find you and how they can support you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, first of all, for having me on. I'm pumped to talk some Chiefs today. You can find me on Twitter at DMendio2. And like you said, everything Triple Play fantasy is pretty much all I live, breathe, and sleep. I do some writing for fan tracks from baseball writing. But most of my stuff is Triple Play Fantasy, YouTube channel, website, all that good stuff.
Very good. And it doesn't usually need much of an introduction for the guy to my to below me here. But Heath, really excited that you decided to come on and give you an opportunity, not just to talk fantasy or, had you on the Viper show to talk about your background, but let's talk about your favorite team today. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's a pretty fun time to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm thank you for having me on. This has been a wild summer. It's been a wild off season for the Chiefs. They try to recover from the massive disappointment of losing the Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get back there for a third year in a row.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into that. And, as you mentioned, like the offseason, trying to bounce back, trying to figure out how to get past that last game. Like they got all the way there again this past season. I think odds are they would be the favorite to get back there again, but they did a lot of things in the offseason. David, let's start with you. What's the best move they made over the course of the last couple of months?
It was adding Joe Tooney. No, wait. It was adding Orlando Brown. No, wait. It was adding 8 offensive linemen to protect Patrick Mahomes and to open up running lanes for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just upgrading the offensive line as a collective unit was the best move of the offseason. That was the big glaring weakness, and Brett Veach hammered that home throughout the draft, through free agency, through trades, just crushed it, and I can't wait to see what the Chiefs do with a solid offensive line this season.
I'm not sure people realize how much the offensive line has been upgraded. Heath, is that kind of what you had pegged for their best offseason move as well?
Oh, 100%. I'm not sure people realize how much the offensive line was decimated throughout last year. I mean, you started off the year with losing one offensive lineman due to the fact that he was going to go be a doctor in Canada and save people's lives. And I appreciate the fact that he did that. And he's back this year, LDT. And then they just had so many injuries in the playoffs. They were essentially playing with 5 backups in the Super Bowl, and it looked like it. And they learned an important lesson. No, Patrick Mahomes is not so good that he could play against a defense like Tampa Bay without an offensive line. So they went and got him an offensive line. It's really like, it's hard to imagine that this offense could be any more efficient, but I do expect this is the best offensive line Patrick Mahomes has ever had.
Which is scary, right? Because you've got Joe Thuney that you mentioned there. You've got Orlando Brown, both studs coming over from, the Ravens and the Patriots. Drafted Creed Humphrey, one of the best interior offensive linemen in the draft. The Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, that was the one that went to Canada to fight COVID, so missed all of last year. And then they talked Kyle Long out of retirement. Completely revamped everything that they're doing. Like, how you think about the Browns, you think about the Colts, can this unit compete with them in terms of the best offensive line in the NFL?
I think the difficulty with that, and maybe the thing that we underrate a little bit with offensive lines, is continuity. They have the talent to where, sure, they if everything went perfectly, but it's going to take a while for things to gel. I think maybe in that final quarter of the season, if everyone stays healthy, they may be one of the best offensive lines in football. Early in the year, it's probably better to just view them as an above average unit.
And that's gonna make things a lot easier for everybody else. You mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire there, David. I know you're pretty high on him. How high are you on Clyde? When we're thinking about, let's just put it in context of the sophomore running backs, which is kind of a popular group to talk about right now. But Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, where do you have Clyde in that mix?
I am only behind Jonathan Taylor this year. I'm extremely high on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know, like you said, I'm very high on him. The Chiefs' offensive line win rate in terms of run blocking was 31st in the league last year. So I expect that to go up. And that was according to ESPN Analytics Index. I expect that to go up a ton. We mentioned Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Kyle Long, Creed Humphrey, Austin Blythe, who actually was the starting Rams center last year. He's there as well. Lucas Niang, who was the draft pick from not this past draft, but the draft before. He was supposed to be a good tackle for them. He's going to be back. So they're going to have a lot of people to help with the run. And people often, when they talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they think of him and they're like, hey, like he couldn't get in the end zone. You know, he only converted 2 out of 10 attempts from inside the 5. But if you look at the rest of the running backs, they combined only converted 1 out of 6 from inside the 5. So it wasn't a Clyde Edwards-Helaire problem. It was an offensive line problem. So I expect that to be rectified this year. And Andy Reid, obviously, you know his history with running backs. He's been coaching for 22 years and only finished twice, I believe, where his running back has not finished as a top 24 PPR running back. So you know that floor is already there. But I think the key stats why I believe he's going to really be good this year is you look at how good Clyde Edwards-Helaire was before Le'Veon Bell joined the fold. He was getting nearly 18 carries, over 5 targets a game, and 110 yards per game the first 6 weeks of the year. And then once Le'Veon Bell came there, those numbers dropped down to 10.6 carries, 3.3 targets, and 57.8 yards per game from week 7 on. Le'Veon Bell is gone. They have the same backs they had there last year. They only added Elijah McGuire and Jerick McKinnon. So I'm not too scared of them taking away volume. And before Le'Veon Bell got there, CEH only trailed Joe Mixon, Zeke, and Derrick Henry in terms of touches. So I think there's an incredible amount of upside with him there. And I have him as my RB9 in PPR going into this year. And I think he's going to just break out in a big way.
I'm definitely going back and clipping that where you said he was only behind Jonathan Taylor and Heath's face was just perfect right there. Heath, what's your reaction to that?
It's like, it's not that I think there's anything wrong with the analysis. I do think the offensive line will help. It's such a weird situation to have a rookie running back come in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, play at least 60% of the snaps every single game. And then the team was so pleased with his performance in that high volume that they went and signed a clearly washed up Le'Veon Bell, or traded for, or however they acquired him. I don't remember anymore. And in the playoffs, specifically in the Super Bowl, because parts of the playoffs he wasn't healthy, but in the Super Bowl, like, they did not trust him on passing downs. They were playing Darrell Williams over him. So I agree with the upside. I agree with the opportunity. But if Le'Veon Bell of 2020 is good enough to take him off the field, then Elijah McGuire is too. Don't know. We elevated him so much last year based on the fact that the Chiefs took him in the first round. Before the draft, I thought he was the 5th or 6th best back in this class. And last year, at times, he really looked like the 5th or 6th best back in this class. So if he can earn the passing game role, which I'm skeptical of, then I think, yeah, he might just be a top 12 running back. I definitely think he'll be a top 20 running back. I've got him closer to 20 than 10, though.
I do think I am kind of curious to see now with the better offensive line, third down, that he won't need to take him off the field to have Darrell Williams come on to be an extra pass protector. Or I look like that at times. Darrell Williams was kind of the 2-minute drill guy too. I think, CH having a full normal offseason to be able to digest the playbook. And we all know Andy Reid's playbook is as complicated as it comes. So I'm kind of curious, having a full regular offseason to work with the guys and kind of learn the playbook better. I feel like that hopefully could also help in the long run too, with him getting more involved in the passing game.
Secretly, I'm still terrified that Adrian Peterson or Todd Gurley is going to sign a veteran deal to chase a ring.
That'd be awful.
Oh man, yeah, that's interesting. They're gonna sign somewhere, and we're gonna definitely react to it. That's for sure. And it might even be a head scratcher, you would say. But let's say this offseason, what comes to mind when I say, like, there wasn't a lot of, I would say, quote unquote, bad moves, but anything happened over the offseason with the Chiefs that kind of left you scratching your head a little bit, Dave?
To be honest with you, I was looking through like the transactions and going over anything. There was nothing that I was unless there's like something I'm completely missing. There wasn't anything I really felt too weirded out about. I mean, I would have loved for them to maybe go and draft a wide receiver at some point that was going to contribute with losing Sammy Watkins. because I don't believe in Mecole Hardman at all. But again, they were focusing on the offensive line by trading their first round pick to get Orlando Brown, and they drafted Creed Humphrey. So that was obviously their focus. They were like, look, Mahomes can make anybody look good if he gets extra time. So besides that, there was nothing that I was really scratching my head about, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think the head scratcher was Juju, right? It was the fact that Juju didn't want to go there. And apparently several receivers that the Chiefs pursued chose other opportunities. Those guys clearly not looking to chase a ring. So the fact that currently Mecole Hardman is their number 2 wide receiver, maybe, is definitely the head scratcher of the offseason. I'm just not sure it was the Chiefs' fault. It sounds like they pursued guys pretty heavily, and there just wasn't a lot of interest from free agent wide receivers, which does not make any sense to me at all.
It makes no sense. That was a thing. Like, yeah, like it's not like a move that they made that was bad, but like I cannot for the life of me figure out why a wide receiver would not want to come and play with Patrick Mahomes. That makes no sense to me.
Do you guys think that there could any chance be because they were like, at best, we're going to be the third option behind Mahomes and Kelsey, and in a league where if you don't have production, you're not getting contracts, that they're like, hey, my numbers aren't going to look good. So when I do leave Kansas City, I'm going to be a year older, and I'm going to probably not be able to get paid like how I want. So I want to be a better option on another team.
I just don't like, I kind of think, and this will, when we talk about Hardman more, we'll probably get into this as well. I don't really necessarily believe that it can't be a third guy behind Hill and Kelsey. The problem so far has been that Sammy Watkins plays half the year. And then the other guys, DeMarcus Robinson, Pringle, Hardman, chop things up too much. If there was a clear second option behind Tyreek Hill at wide receiver that was able to stay healthy, I think that guy could put up 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, why not? That leads into a question. I'm assuming Ernie means, can Mecole Hardman be the best wide receiver on Kansas City after Tyreek Hill? Because I think the answer to this question on its face is no. But what do you think? I mean, can he? We've seen 2 years now, and he's had moments where he looks dynamic and, he flashes with the ball in his hands. But do we think he can be that third option behind, maybe fourth option if Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets in, but maybe third option behind Kelsey and Tyreek?
I think he is being a little bit unfairly judged because of our unfair hype of him. Like we hyped him up in the first 2 years. Coming into the year, we knew he was a 21-year-old project as a wide receiver. He was behind where Tyreek Hill was, and Tyreek Hill wasn't an NFL quality wide receiver when he first came into the league. He was a gadget player who worked exceptionally hard to become at the same level that Tyreek Hill did. We can say that about just about every wide receiver that's entered the NFL since Tyreek Hill. So I still have some optimism for him. You look at his career numbers, 67, 1,098, 10 touchdowns. That's on 103 targets. With Sammy Watkins gone, there should be no obstacle currently to Mecole Hardman getting 103 targets, except for the fact that maybe he can't get off the line against bump coverage.
Yeah, I'm like Mecole Hardman. He's been so hard to judge, but like, I mean, Heath's also mentioned you don't have to like pay up a lot to get him. He's, at the point where you can get him kind of towards the end of your draft and just take a shot on him. But I'm going to be honest. I know this might lead into another question. I'm really big on Byron Pringle. I think he might emerge. I've been just sometimes you just stalk their Instagrams and you just see the type of work they put in. You also are like, seeing, Patrick Mahomes comment on his page. I don't think Patrick Mahomes and Mecole Hardman as tight as they might seem like they are. Because you remember, Heath, I'm sure you remember too, like during the Super Bowl, Mecole Hardman misran a route and Patrick Mahomes pretty much did everything besides call him out by name of saying that he didn't run, he was supposed to run. And that type of stuff, if a quarterback doesn't believe that you're going to be where you're supposed to be when he throws you the ball and that trust issues start developing and, he's not going to even look his way anymore. And he's looking for that next guy to come in, step up, he could be like, hey, I want to make this guy relevant and make it work. And Byron Pringle seems like he could emerge. He's that kind of person I think that's that right now isn't getting talked about, but I'm trying to take in the last round of a lot of my drafts if I have enough bench space. And I'm just going to stash him there and just in case he emerges as the number 2 guy.
As you said,
Pringle is definitely more of the do what you're supposed to do type of guy. He doesn't have the upside that Hardman does if Hardman ever learns how to do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, and as you said, it kind of leads into our next question here about who's not getting enough respect. So I'm guessing that Pringle was your guy there, David, or feel free to chime in. But Heath, anybody you think on this team that should be getting more respect than they are?
I mean, I think it's probably Hardman. Last I looked, his ADP was or like wide receiver 65 or something. And I still think, like, as a third-year wide receiver playing with Patrick Mahomes, who is currently getting the hype from all the beat writers as their most improved player this offseason, that we probably need to view him as a little bit more of a sleeper. And it's just, I think the problem is it's hard to call Hardman a sleeper with all the unfulfilled hype of the past 2 years. But if you're being drafted 65th at wide receiver, you're still a sleeper.
Yeah. And I also had this also about Byron Pringle. He signed a restricted free agent tender. The Chiefs used their restricted free agent tender on him for $2.1 million. So I mean, it's not like absolutely nothing, but I think they do think kind of highly of him enough to use that tender to bring him back. But as we've seen also in the past, I feel like Mecole Hardman has done a lot better when he takes over the Tyreek role. If like Tyreek's hurt, he slides over to that. And then you'd seen Demarcus Robinson playing better on the Sammy Watkins side. So I'm kind of curious of them both on the field at the same time if we're going to see anything different like we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, so hopefully I think Heath's hoping the same thing. At least somebody emerge that can be a consistent option on the other side of the field to take the defenses away from bracketing the other two guys.
And I, again, wouldn't rule out there being somebody added during training camp that just comes in, a veteran that gets cut somewhere. And that might end up, that's a pretty bad sign for Hardman if it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are right. Like, I just looked up his Dynasty League football ADP. These are the mock drafts that Ryan McDowell runs, and he's going wide receiver 61. That's behind guys like Devontae Parker and such. Like, to me, that's in a Dynasty League, Mecole Hardman probably should be getting more respect than he is. So I think you guys are right there. What about maybe the leader of the hype train on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Is he is it getting a little bit too much, Heath?
I think for me, running back 9 and the second rookie running back behind Jonathan Taylor is a little bit too much hype. Now, the thing in David's favor is that it's not like that's the hype within the industry. So it's okay to be higher on him than consensus. That makes sense. It's just like the hype train was out of control on him last year is what we found out. And it's a little cooled off a little bit. I don't know that there is, like, normally I would say Patrick Mahomes because he's a quarterback and he's going in the second round. But he's been 3.5 fantasy points better than any other quarterback since he became the starter in Kansas City. It's really difficult for me to say that shouldn't go in the second round. I think Kelsey's a first-round pick. I think Tyreek Hill's a first-round pick, and everybody else is pretty much ignored.
It's very concentrated at the top. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to say that in the NFC ADP, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been shooting up draft boards. He actually has a min pick of 4. And his ADP now is settled in as 19. So it's each month it's bumped up, and it's gotten to the point now where the average is 19. So he's a firm second round pick right now in the NFC. So I think everybody's kind of like, I don't think it's going to go any higher than it is right now, but I think it's definitely, probably gone another round or two higher than it did a month or two ago.
Yeah, I think moving on to some rumors you're most paying attention to. Now, there's not a ton, looking through the rumors that I've seen lately on the Chiefs, but we really didn't. I guess one of the things I'm looking for over the course of the next couple of months with the Chiefs is, does Cornell Powell start to create a little bit of buzz? He's the draft pick that the Chiefs took here, and that's, look, you get a chance to play with Patrick Mahomes, and if you can make a couple splashes early on, maybe you can make a noise or make a name for yourself out there. Dave, do you have any rumors or any plot lines, news stories you're looking for when it comes to this Chiefs team?
Probably Byron Pringle was the biggest one. I was just keeping an eye on him the most. I also like the draft pick Gray, the tight end. I think he's gonna play a lot on the field. He's somebody that I think they're gonna do a lot more 2 tight end sets this year, and I think that's one of the things they're gonna do to change up a little bit of how teams look at him. And I wouldn't say he's gonna sit there and be a great add on your roster, but he's gonna be a really good football player for him, and he'll probably get some touchdowns that I'm sure you're gonna wish went to Tyreek or Kelsey. So I would say probably Pringle and Gray are the 2 guys I'm looking most at.
Yeah, it seems like the main rumor of the past week has been that report in The Athletic from Nate Taylor that Hardman looks like the clear number 2 wide receiver and that he's going to replace Sammy Watkins, which again is kind of weird with Hardman's size and trying to play in that specific role. But that's definitely the one, like that's going to be the thing we watch going into camp. It's who is winning that battle and is anyone winning it convincingly? There's not a whole lot of other intrigue other than is Clyde Edwards-Helaire playing on third downs? Is he playing in the red zone like that? That will be interesting as well. And are they able to bring anybody else in on that front?
I think that's the most fascinating thing to look for, right there. If anybody can emerge as that third passing option, and that's going to create a lot of great things for us for fantasy. I want to talk dynasty for just a second because obviously one of the most popular names of the offseason coming in the draft, we had Kyle Pitts, right? And everybody's going crazy over Kyle Pitts. Ryan McDowell has said here at DLF, he expects Kyle Pitts to be the tight end 1 in dynasty as far as ADP in dynasty startups next season. That's overtaking a pretty important guy here in Kansas City, but he is 31 years old. David, what do you think about that? You think Kyle Pitts is destined to be the ADP tight end 1 next offseason?
Not next year. People forget that Tony Gonzalez was playing really well till he was like 36 or 37. I think Kelsey has another, I would say, year or two after this where I think he can still be the top tight end. And then I would look to maybe, they start seeing a little bit more of a decline. I mean, he had 1,000 yards, 5 straight seasons, 1,000 or more yards. Yeah. So he's still very much, I think, got another couple of years where he's going to give you the type of production. I can't put Kyle Pitts number 1 next year yet. Maybe in 2022 or 23, like maybe 23, I'd probably look at it more, but yeah, definitely not next year.
Yeah. Is the question, do we think he should be ranked there or is his ADP going to be there? Because I think if the question is if his ADP is going to be there, then it's almost like, unless he just completely busts, like even if he goes out, and I think he's probably going to bust for redraft. He's going to end up tight end 4 in ADP as a 4th round pick or an early 5th round pick. And I can't do that. But even if he goes out and puts up 6,600 with 5 touchdowns and is by all means a bust at his ADP, he's still like, then you're talking about a 32-year-old Travis Kelce who probably experienced a little bit of drop off this year is what we should expect. So the only thing that might get in the way is I'm not totally sure we've seen the best season yet from Mark Andrews, and he's 25 years old and has had back-to-back seasons on a per-game basis as a top 5 tight end. And if he goes out and does something crazy, maybe the Ravens really do increase their pass volume, but Andrews remains the number 1 at a 25% target share, then I think it might be a discussion not between Kelce and Pitts, but between Andrews and Pitts.
That's why Pitts is such a good investment right now, I think, because there's almost no scenario in which he loses value going into next season, right? Like, I can't imagine a scenario where he's less valuable or taken at a lower ADP than he is right now. Even if he doesn't surpass Kelce, it's still going to be right in there in that 1, 2, 3 range, and so it'll be right there. Last question before I ask for predictions on the Chiefs' record. Pat Mahomes is 25. He's the QB1. You mentioned it already. He's top 5 finishes. He's unreal. How long can he maintain being the dynasty QB1? Right at 25, he's already been it for a couple of years. What do we think?
I mean, after going through the Brody Croyle, Tyler Thigpen, Matt Castle, it's just having this conversation is just so fun to have. I don't see him going anywhere. I mean, he throws so much, and the Chiefs are such a pass-first team. Obviously, he doesn't have the rushing floor that like the Lamar Jacksons or Kyler Murrays have, but I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. I would say at least a few more years before I would even think about it.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is like the guys that are right there with him and even a couple of years younger than him, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, you would not expect those guys to have the type of longevity that Mahomes does, considering they're running for 700 yards a season. So I don't think any of those guys are passing him. The question is, does Herbert or Burrow or Lawrence do something to get into the tier below Mahomes in redraft? Because if those guys are top 5 guys in redraft and 5 years younger than Mahomes, which I guess 3 or 4 years younger, Then maybe it happens when Mahomes is 27 or 28, maybe 2 or 3 years. For me personally, if nothing changes with Mahomes and nobody else gets on his level, I'd say 5 more years, because we've got Tom Brady winning Super Bowls at 43, Aaron Rodgers winning MVPs at 37. We don't have to worry about quarterback age for a long time.
A very long time. I mean, exactly. It's kind of interesting. You could kind of the next 5-6 years, just go ahead and put him in pencil or pen as your quarterback 1 and be pretty comfortable doing that. Okay.
That's why I take him in the first round in dynasty drafts, because that's like, I really enjoy not having to worry about quarterback ever again.
100%. All right, the Chiefs, we got a 17-game season this year, so adjust your 16-game calibers here. But David, the Chiefs' record in 2020 was 14-2. What's it going to look like in 2021?
I don't see him losing more than 3 games. I'll say 14-3.
Heath?
Patrick Mahomes said they were going to go 20-0, so I'll go with him.
Go.
I love it.
All right. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys. So Heath, what are you working on this offseason that everybody can be paying attention to and just be able to look and say, like, and help support what you guys and the CBS crew are doing?
Yeah, we've really made an effort over the past 2 years to expand our dynasty content. When I started at CBS 6 years ago, we really didn't have very much, maybe a mock draft every once in a while. We now have a Dynasty Fantasy Football Central, where we have rankings, we have tiers, we have a trade chart, we got a top 150, we've got mock drafts, mailbags, prospect profiles, everything that you could look for Dynasty. We've got it at CBS Sports. Just search CBS Sports Dynasty League Central and enjoy.
Very cool. Love the CBS crew. You guys have been really supportive of me and the Viper crew with Matt Donnelly and all. Certainly appreciate that. David, how about you, man? I know you're not even just covering football. We got a couple of like multi-sport analysts here on the show today. David, what are you guys working on? And is Shohei Ohtani the MVP?
Okay. So that I do think he's going to be MVP. Yeah. I mean, you putting up a 3 ERA, striking out more than a batter per inning, and then hitting 32 home runs. He's actually hit the most home runs before the All-Star break since 2013. So that shows you the kind of thing he's doing right now. But yeah, I mean, triple play, again, football, baseball, basketball. I don't do as much basketball for the brand, but I do a lot of football, baseball content. And we're really trying to push our YouTube channel. Just hit 400 subscribers. So we're trying to see if we can get 1,000 by the end of the year. That's really been what we've been pushing the most. And obviously trying to do as many of those athlete interviews and talking to as many awesome people like Keith, who's come on the show before, as we can, just to learn from all the stuff that they do. So, but really appreciate you bringing me on, Calvin. This was awesome.
You guys do a great job. You're a great host on that show. Really appreciate it. Everybody should be following what you guys are doing. And yeah, so for Heath, for Dave, I'm Calvin and Hobby. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. Hit the notification button. Hit the like button, leave some comments. That always helps us and shows us that you appreciate the content that we're putting out. We've got a bunch more of these team preview series to come. A lot of great guests. Make sure you're tuning in for those.